Guys, what's Spartan What Ifs here. This is going to be my first episode of What If Bell was a Spartan or a Spartan Knight, depends on what context you see it as. So, to start us off, we're going to be starting in Sparta in Greece. Now then, on one day, the king of Sparta bears a child. That child is Bell. Bell is born without any sort of magic, although he's extremely strong even for a child. When he was only 3 years old, he was capable of lifting boulders, heavy boulders. And so as he grew, his father taught him how to use a sword, a bow, and a spear, and also to use his shield as a weapon. And after all of that, he actually learned something, and a specialized skill, shall we say, called Berserk. When too much damage would be done to the body of Bell, he would enter an enraged state called Berserker state, which was given to all Spartans by the god of war, Ares. So most of them have it, but some of them don't. And as well as that went. Now then, 17 years, that's a bit too much. 10 years after Bell was born, his father went ahead to a war against, let's say, the Illyrians, barbarians from the north. The north. Anyways, most of Greece came there to fight them. Bell was actually taken by his father alongside, for him to finally see combat and war, and to get accustomed to it, for he is a Spartan, and Spartans fight. And Spartans, just like I said, Spartans basically have war in their blood. Now, as that was happening, in the first battle he ever witnessed, it was his father alone took down several hundred barbarians. So, you get the gist of how powerful he is. Even without any god getting him into a familia, he was still, I would say, about the power of a level 3 adventurer. And as that was going on, some barbarians were somehow managed to break through their defenses. They attacked the main camp where Bell was at. Bell took his short sword, as all you can see here on the picture, although that is not Bell. Just imagine a shorter sword than what's currently on the picture. And he went ahead and fought against them. He was able to kill 2 of them, while the third one got a jump on him and was able to cut off his left arm, along with hurting his left eye as well. That's when his father came back and simply smashed the guy's scorpion. Well, now Bell's father did not want to see his son die, so he immediately carried him back to, who else? Using a favor which he earned by gaining the god's favor, he called for Hephaestus. Yes, she made Bell a new arm, and a metallic arm, which was rather strong, may I add. It was capable of lifting several tons of steel. And although his eye, nothing could be done about that, sadly. And as the battles raged on, Bell became more and more active. For the next 4 years, until Bell turned at the age of 14, he was fighting in battle after battle after battle. He gained the recognition of his father and of the soldiers which followed his father, many of them being his brothers in arms. And when they finally returned home, there was a glorious banquet, fitting for the king and the king's family of Sparta, along with the rest of the soldiers who returned from the war. Now, Bell was finally advised to take a test. It was on a test what all Spartans had to go through when they reached the age of 15. They were expected to hunt a minotaur. Yes, but not the ones from the dungeon, which are located in... crap, I forgot how the city is called. Orariel. The minotaurs which are located in the dungeon in Orariel. Not as strong as those ones, but some which are quite weaker. They were expected to kill one of them and bring their head to him. Now, as Bel set out to find one and to kill it, he found a bit of a problem. He did find a minotaur, but what he found was a prime minotaur, and a minotaur which was already at least 50 to 70 years old, and an extremely powerful beast at that. But Bel did not want to give up. He fought against it. He broke several of his bones in the process, but he used his short sword to stab the minotaur in his leg. And after the minotaur finally kneeled, he used his spear to then puncture into his neck. Although the minotaur took his right hand and squeezed it extremely hard, breaking several of his bones. That's when Bel used his metallic arm and, putting it rather simply, gouged out the minotaur's eye. And as the minotaur left his left hand, he took back the spear which he punched. He took back his spear and then punched it right through his eye socket, through his head. And like that, Bel had killed an extremely powerful prime minotaur. And after all that was happened, he carried the head of the minotaur back to his father, which was extremely proud. And after 2 more years, Bel had received his armor. Now, if any of you have noticed that there's horns here, they are the horns of a minotaur, as you can see. The same minotaur which he killed 2 years prior in his test, which he took to become a true Spartan. And after that, he was given his first ever mission by his father. He told him to take 120 Spartans and go to the countryside, in a specific county where Bel was given in a fort and several villages to protect from raiders, bandits, and monsters, of course. Now then, the Bel's first few months there, he faced up against several hordes of bandits, looters, and raiders. At one point, even one of the raiding parties, which was about 500 men strong, also brought 2 wyverns. Although not fully grown wyverns, they were still adolescent. Each one of those wyverns has the same amount of strength as the minotaur, which Bel killed 2 years prior. Now then, Bel didn't take all of his soldiers with him. He had 150 true Spartans and then a further 300 helot conscripts, them being the not-so-good soldiers, basically militia troops. But he left most of his militia troops at the fort, defending it along with 50 of his Spartans. He had 100 Spartan soldiers and 120 helots with him, against a force of 500 raiders and 2 wyverns. Needless to say, Bel alone went off against the raider chieftain and both of his wyverns. In the end, the battle was won, with the raider chieftain retreating along with one of his wyverns. But the other wyvern was killed by Bel and further incorporated into his armor. His helmet, which you can see, was actually crafted from the skull of the beast, then further reinforced with various unknown metals which Hephaestus gave the Spartans. Bel was proven to be a capable leader, management, and now, finally, the war which happened. Sparta versus Athens. Although they were allies for most of their known history together, Ares and Athena had finally gotten shall we say, both of them could not stand each other anymore. So they simply told the mortals to fight each other. Bel's father took 2,000 Spartan soldiers, along with 5,000 Helot conscripts, to fight a force of Athenians and Theognostic League. The League being several other Greek city-states which had joined Athens. As that was going on, Bel was left at home to manage it. And luckily that he was left home, because an Athenian armada of 120 ships, which was carrying about 3,500 Athenian marines, extremely elite soldiers of Athens, were coming down to conquer Sparta, their capital city. Needless to say, Bel wasn't having any of it. He quickly arose most of the Spartan soldiers which were left. So, it was going to be 3,500 elite Athenian marines versus 1,700 Spartan soldiers, along with 300 Ares' chosen. They were part of the Ares familia, and a rather strong familia at that. But all of them were ranging from level 1, from a mid-level 1 to high-level 1. There was no level 2s. Although currently Bel's power would be somewhere at level 2. Adventurer status, that is. And well, as the final battle began, the Athenians started attacking the walls of Sparta. Needless to say, that went poorly, as the Spartan soldiers simply made a shield wall and bashed them away with them. The Athenians took another approach, making siege towers and siege weapons and then bombarding the city. Bel held out strong, but now, in the meanwhile, his father was getting victory after victory after victory, taking care of most, if not all, of the battles he began with decisive victories, until eventually one of his right-hand man, his own brother, betrayed him in battle. Bel's uncle killed his father. After that happened, the Helots lost all morale, while the Spartan soldiers were indifferent. Half of them joined his uncle, while the other half were going to be facing off against their brothers-in-arms, or now ex-brothers-in-arms, and several thousand Athenian soldiers. Safe to say, the entire army was wiped out. When word of this reached Bel, he couldn't believe it. His own uncle had betrayed them. And to make things even worse, several assassins were able to enter the city. Bel's mother was killed. Sadly. The only one remaining was, well, Bel's older brother. Let's call him for now Nicias. Nicias is right over here, and he's going to become one of Bel's, well, he was Bel's greatest friend. But sadly for him, Nicias joined his uncle's side. So Bel and his older brother Nicias battled. In the battle, Nicias was defeated, but before Bel could do the finishing blow, Athenian marines had finally breached the walls, along with the rampant Spartans which joined Bel's uncle. The rest of the Spartans, along with the rest of the Spartan soldiers, took Bel and simply ran. It wasn't in their way, but they weren't about to let a false king of Sparta rule over it. Bel and the remaining 1,000 Spartan soldiers and of the 300 Ares' chosen, there was only 76 of them left, because they were always fighting at the front lines, being the favored ones of the god Ares. And, well, Bel and all of his soldiers went abroad. They left Greece and went to an unknown peninsula, which was, well, rather new to them. That peninsula being Italy, the colony which Sparta had founded in the very end of Italy, the boot, that is the heel of the boot, as some would say. There was the one colony which finally opened themselves to their new king, Bel. And well, although there were several dozen colonies, all of the other colonies chose Bel's uncle. Bel would not have any of that, and well, Bel faced up against an army of 5,000 helots against his army of 1,070 Spartan soldiers. I also included the Ares as champions in there because, well, simply putting it, I don't really see a point of saying that they're also there. And as the battle raged on, Bel killed the commander of the enemy forces. They immediately fled, as the Athenian fleet had actually followed them. The only problem was, they entered into a port city which they thought was held by their allies, but instead it was held by Bel's Spartans. As soon as they let their guard down, catapults and fire arrows were brought down upon them. The entire navy, that is, the entire fleet of the Athenians, was completely and utterly burned and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Bel was pissed. He had lost his father, his mother, and both his older brother and his uncle had betrayed him. He wasn't going to let any of them live, and he promised that as a blood oath to the god Ares. But when Ares came to him and asked him if he wanted to become a part of his familia, Bel refused, for he would not be a part of the same familia which his older brother and uncle were. Although Ares did favor Bel, now he couldn't, because he didn't want to join his familia. So he started favoring Bel's older brother and his uncle. Sadly, the Ares' chosen, which were there, all of them resigned their familiar status, and Ares called them traitors. But well, they didn't care. They were following Bel, their true king. And as time went on, Bel slowly began to take over the colonies which had belonged to his father. He slowly but surely took most of them, until there was only one left, and a citadel city of, let's call it Igvild. Yes, that seems a good name. It sounds a bit Nordic, but bear with me here, I'm bad at getting names. So, Igvid, the citadel city, the last one left of the colonies, which were under Bel's uncle's control. Bel personally went into that battle along with his currently 1,200 Spartans, which he got from loyalists all around the colonies, and 3,000 Italian troops, since they weren't exactly Spartans, but Italians. And they were going up against a force which was about 2,700 in the city. With most of the army was recalled because, no big surprise here, Bel's uncle now turned against Athens and the Thracian League. So most of the soldiers were needed for the war happening in the Greek mainland. So their defenses were weakened in Italy and all their colonies around both Africa, Italy, and also Syracuse. And with that being said, Bel attacked the city. He was the first one to climb up the walls and the first one to take a life of the traitors which joined his uncle. As that was going on, and as he was finally able to reach the city's main entrance, he opened it up, and the Spartan horde flooded in, killing every single traitor they saw, although not the civilians. innocents. Bel specifically told them not to kill any innocents, which they followed because of their enormous respect for their king. And as all of that was said and done, the citadel city of Ygritte had been taken over by Bel. All 21 colonies, which were made on the Italian peninsula by the Spartans, were taken over by Bel. And just like that, Bel began his preparations to go and finally end the rule of his uncle. Now, this was the first episode. I hope that all of you guys enjoyed it. There's going to be 2 more episodes of this coming tomorrow. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and, well, have a nice day.